No one in the royal family likes him. He's made a lot of enemies on the way up. I don't think anyone in the palace likes him.
He's basically thrown out and banished to the countryside where he will live in Norfolk.
The continuing saga of Prince Andrew's downfall has dragged with it not only his former public role, but his daughters.
To be simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor with no letters after his name, no styles before his name, and to lose those military connections as well will really sting.
They shouldn't pay for the sins of the parents, clearly, but I wouldn't expect them to have any front and centre row. Don't expect to see them on the palace.
The royal family's Christmas gathering at Sandringham is happening right now, but there's one glaring absence that nobody can ignore. While the rest of the royals are preparing for their traditional festivities, one man sits alone in a crumbling mansion watching his life fall apart piece by piece. This is the story of how Prince Andrew's Christmas became his loneliest yet. Every December, the British royal family transforms Sandringham into a fortress of tradition. The estate buzzes with activity as relatives arrive from across the country. Cars packed with presents and formal wear for church services. Staff prepare elaborate meals. Photographers position themselves for those coveted Christmas morning shots, and the public eagerly awaits glimpses of royal unity. But this year, something fundamental has shifted. The careful choreography that usually includes every senior royal has been rewritten, and one name has been permanently struck from the guest list. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor won't be walking to church on Christmas morning. He won't be exchanging gifts on Christmas Eve in the white drawing room. He won't even be sharing a meal with his own daughters. Instead, he remains confined to Royal Lodge, a property he's about to lose, surrounded by half-packed boxes and memories of better times. The contrast couldn't be starker. While his siblings gather around the king's table, Andrew faces his most isolated Christmas in decades. The exclusion began weeks before Christmas Day, when King Charles hosted his traditional pre-Christmas lunch at Buckingham Palace. Every senior royal received their invitation. The event serves as a warm-up to the main festivities, allowing the extended family to connect before the more intimate Sandringham gathering. Photographers captured arrivals throughout the afternoon, documenting smiling royals greeting each other with warm embraces. But Andrew's absence spoke volumes. Instead of joining his family in London, he was photographed alone in Windsor Great Park, bundled against the cold on a solitary horse ride. The timing seemed deliberate, almost theatrical in its symbolism. Sources close to the palace reveal this wasn't a scheduling conflict or a minor disagreement. The decision to exclude Andrew from all Christmas festivities came from the very top. After years of scandal and controversy, the royal family has drawn an unmistakable line. Andrew is no longer part of the public face of the monarchy, and Christmas, with its heavy media coverage and symbolic importance, has become another casualty of his fall from grace.
Prince Andrew never really leaves the news, but there's been a sort of tsunami of coverage over the last couple of weeks.
Their parents' misjudgments have repeatedly placed them in the blast zone.
The layers of duplicity and shallowness, this is a new low.
Ever-evolving soap opera, that is, of course, what's happening over at Royal Lodge.
The reports are that King Charles has vowed to protect Beatrice and Eugenie.
So, I mean, this is a much bigger problem than I think people have realised.
What makes this situation particularly painful is the impact on his daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. Both received invitations to Sandringham, a clear signal that the king distinguishes between Andrew's actions and his children's standing within the family. But this gesture of inclusion created an impossible dilemma. How could they celebrate with the wider family while their father sat alone? How could they choose between loyalty to their parent and their place within the royal fold? Beatrice's solution reveals the depth of this family fracture. Rather than choosing sides, she opted out entirely. Reports indicate she's spending Christmas abroad on a skiing holiday with her husband and friends. The decision allows her to avoid the inevitable photographs and speculation that would accompany either choice. It's a strategic retreat from an impossible situation, but it also means Andrew won't see his eldest daughter during the holiday season. Eugenie's path appears similarly complicated. While she attended the pre-Christmas lunch, showing appreciation for the king's continued support, her Christmas Day plans remain deliberately vague. Neither sister has been spotted at Royal Lodge in recent weeks, suggesting they're maintaining physical distance from their father during this turbulent period. Royal correspondent Katie Nichol describes the sisters as shell-shocked, caught between family loyalty and public perception. The atmosphere at Royal Lodge itself tells its own story of decline. For nearly 2 decades, Andrew has called this 30-room mansion home. Previous Christmases saw the property transformed with elaborate decorations, wreaths adorning the gates, and a towering Christmas tree visible from the drive. This year, nothing. No festive touches soften the Georgian facade. No lights twinkle in the windows. The absence of decoration feels less like oversight and more like surrender. Inside, the reality is even starker. Andrew faces the monumental task of packing up 20 years of life in a house he can no longer afford to maintain. Sources describe rooms filled with boxes, some packed, others abandoned, half full. The process of dismantling a life proves harder than anyone anticipated. Each item sorted represents another piece of his former existence being catalogued and stored away. Sarah Ferguson's presence adds another layer of complexity to this Christmas tragedy. Despite their divorce decades ago, she's remained at Royal Lodge, creating an unconventional but apparently functional arrangement. But even this relationship, once described as unbreakable, shows signs of strain. Reports suggest Sarah is actively searching for separate accommodation, acknowledging that their unusual living situation must finally end. The woman who stood by Andrew through countless scandals appears to be planning her exit strategy. Friends describe 2 different scenes playing out at Royal Lodge this Christmas. In one version, Sarah attempts to maintain some semblance of normalcy, perhaps over-decorating to compensate for the obvious absences, inviting the few remaining loyal friends who haven't distanced themselves. In another, quieter version, Andrew spends most of his time alone, watching television in empty rooms. The silence broken only by the occasional phone call from well-meaning acquaintances.
He doesn't sort of think of anyone except his own personal interests. He's found it so hard to make any sort of apology or to show any sort of contrition.
It's a Shakespearean example of how hereditary privilege magnifies both honour and disgrace.
It's the loss of the privilege that goes along with a royal title. That's really the most significant one, is the loss of his home. So
he's been offered a palace in Abu Dhabi. He has a lot of protectors and friends there. His great play place was Thailand. That's another option. That's where he used to go and have fun.
I've read that Charles will somewhat try and ring-fence Beatrice and Eugenie as his nieces.
The financial pressure adds urgency to an already painful situation. Andrew's lease on Royal Lodge expires soon, and despite his attempts to negotiate extensions or alternatives, the outcome seems inevitable. The king has made clear that taxpayer-funded security won't continue indefinitely for non-working royals. Without that protection, Andrew can't afford to maintain such a large property. Each day brings him closer to an unceremonious departure from the only real home he's known as an adult. Meanwhile, at Sandringham, the royal Christmas proceeds without him. The family maintains their cherished traditions, from the German custom of opening gifts on Christmas Eve to the walk to St. Mary Magdalene Church on Christmas morning. Television crews capture every moment, broadcasting images of royal unity and continuity to millions. The message is clear: the monarchy moves forward, with or without Andrew. The psychological impact of such complete exclusion can't be understated. Christmas holds special significance for the royal family, representing not just personal celebration but public duty. To be excluded from these rituals means more than missing a family dinner. It represents a fundamental severing from the institution that has defined Andrew's entire existence. Every tradition celebrated without him reinforces his new status as an outsider. Some royal watchers suggest this isolation might be temporary, that time might heal these wounds, but those close to the situation paint a different picture. The king faces immense pressure to modernize the monarchy and restore public trust. Including Andrew in any public capacity would undermine those efforts. Prince William, as future king, reportedly takes an even harder line, viewing his uncle's presence as a threat to the institution he'll one day lead. The broader context makes Andrew's rehabilitation seem even less likely. Public opinion polls consistently show limited sympathy for his situation. Younger generations, in particular, express frustration with perceived royal privilege and scandal. Every photograph of Andrew at a royal event would become a lightning rod for criticism, a reminder of controversies the family desperately wants to move past. As Christmas Day unfolds, the contrast between Andrew's reality and his former life becomes almost unbearable. While his siblings attend church services and wave to well-wishers, he remains hidden behind the walls of Royal Lodge. While his mother's memory is honored at her beloved Sandringham, he's excluded from the family gathering in her former home. While his daughters navigate their own complicated relationships with the institution, He sits alone, unable to offer guidance or support. The saddest part might be the small details. No grandchildren running through Royal Lodge halls on Christmas morning. No family photographs to add to albums already gathering dust. No phone calls from siblings who once shared everything. Just the quiet ticking of clocks in empty rooms, and the knowledge that this isolation isn't temporary, but permanent. Royal biographer Andrew Loney suggests there might be one final gathering at Royal Lodge before the inevitable move. A farewell to the house, if not a reconciliation with family. But even this seems more wish than reality. The logistics of Andrew's departure consume most energy, leaving little room for sentiment or ceremony. As December 25th draws to a close, Andrew faces a future that looks nothing like his past. The man who once stood at the heart of royal life now exists at its furthest margins. His Christmas story serves as a cautionary tale about how quickly privilege can evaporate and how completely institutions can close ranks when threatened. The question isn't whether Andrew will ever return to the royal fold at Christmas. That door appears permanently closed, sealed by scandal and reinforced by strategic necessity. The real question is what comes next for a man whose entire identity was wrapped up in an institution that no longer wants him. As boxes pile higher at Royal Lodge and the deadline for departure approaches, Andrew's isolation becomes not just a Christmas story, but a permanent condition. This Christmas at Sandringham will be remembered not for who attended, but for who didn't. In years to come, when historians examine this period of royal transition, Andrew's absence will speak louder than any presence could. The empty place at the table, the missing figure in photographs, the silence where once there was laughter, these absences define not just one Christmas, but an entire era's end. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.